And welcome back to the Sideline Report. I'm your host, Terry Raper. We got some big news from some sports highlights and headlines from last week, and also getting into what's coming up this week in your local sports. Actually, we're going to get started here with some hockey. We got some NA3HL hockey here coming up for you. We have some news from the Rochester Grizzlies as they took on the Rochester Grizzlies took on the Wisconsin Woodsmen this past Saturday. They, in their season opener here, won against the Woodsmen 3-1, backed by goals by Ole Fevald, Andrew Bastain, and Tanner Lozano, putting the three scores up for the Grizzlies, and that brought them to a 1-1 record for the year, and they'll be back this Saturday at the Rochester Recreation Center this weekend for two meetings against the Peoria Mustangs. Now getting into some college football action. Now getting into some college football action here. The Winona State Warriors took on MSU Moorhead this past weekend in a big matchup. Last year, the Warriors were able to take over MSU Moorhead in a 33-6 victory. And it seems this year, Moorhead came for some revenge, beating out Winona State 45-21 in a huge upset. MSU Moorhead jumped to a 17-0 lead at halftime, which the Warriors tried to cut into during the second half, but the Dragons' offense was just way too much for the Warriors. They had three receivers with over 100 receiving yards, and again, the Warriors just weren't able to take this one away from them. We could see the Winona State Warriors this Saturday taking on Minot State, and MSU Moorhead playing against Wayne College this Saturday. Now getting into Minnesota State Mankato. They took on their rivals, the UMD Bulldogs, at James Molosky Stadium in Duluth for Military Appreciation Night. Now, this game was a rivalry anticipation that everyone wanted to see. Both teams coming in top 25 ranked. UMD coming in at number 24, and Winona State coming in at number 7. UMD able to outlast Minnesota State Mankato in a 17-14 victory. And this one was just taken away by freshman kicker Jadon Apker, who hit 3 field goals this game, including the game-winning game-winning field goal in the fourth quarter at the last second to pull that one out for the victory. You can see both teams playing this Saturday. The UMD Bulldogs taking on the University of Sioux Falls this Saturday at 1, and MSU-Mankato taking on Jamestown in North Dakota at 1 p.m. this Saturday also. Now we'll get into some girls volleyball here. Mabel Canton, number 4 ranked Mabel Canton, taking on Schaefer Academy. The Mabel Canton Cougars ended up taking this one with a clean sweep against the Lions in a 3-0 sweep in the Southeast Conference volleyball. Next matchups you can catch for Mabel Canton, they'll be at the Invitational at Heritage Christian Academy on Friday, September 12th, and Schaefer Academy will play at Glenville Emmons on Thursday, September 18th at 7 p.m. Next we have Mankato West coming out to Century to take on the Panthers. The Century Panthers able to sweep this one as well in a 3-0 sweep. In a 3-0 sweep in this Big 9 conference matchup. We can see the Century Panthers taking on Owatonna this Thursday at 7:15 p.m. for their next game. Speaking of upcoming matchups, for this week for girls volleyball, we have Casson Manorville coming out to Stewartville to take on the Tigers this Tuesday. Lake City going out to Byron to take on the Bears. And also this Tuesday, we have a crosstown rivalry matchup with the Mayo Spartans taking on the John Marshall Rockets. This Thursday, we also have another big rivalry matchup with Mankato West going to take on Mankato East. And then we also have Goodhue taking on Pine Island this Thursday. Now getting into some football, not football, but the soccer version. We start off with the Lourdes Eagles taking on Lake City. And this one, the Eagles take down Lake City in a 2-0 victory, led by the performance of number 10, Luca Duer, with a 2-goal performance. He gets those goals on the board for the Lourdes Eagles. Then we have another crosstown matchup between John Marshall and Mayo in this boys soccer matchup. John Marshall, this one was a 0-0 tie, both teams scoreless in this rivalry game, held up both ends defensively very well. Next games for Mayo. Next games this week will be Mayo versus Winona and John Marshall versus Albert Lee this Thursday. Staying with this crosstown rivalry, but getting into some girls action, we have the John Marshall Rockets girls taking on the Mayo Spartan ladies, and this one was a whole different outcome. The Mayo Spartans cruise on to a 7-0 win against the Rockets. This one was a big win for the Mayo Spartans over the Rockets as they won 7-0. You could catch Mayo playing Winona this Thursday at 7 p.m. and John Marshall taking on Albert Lee this Thursday. Now going out to Stewartville, we had the Fairmont Cardinals taking on the Stewartville Tigers in this matchup. Stewartville Tigers in this non-conference game against the Cardinals. This one ended in a draw 2-2. After Fairmont scored the first goal, we had Avery Nelson and Kyla Burt scoring respectively each for the Stewartville Tigers as they took the lead 2-1. But Fairmont able to get that last goal in to tie this one up and cause a draw. Next matchup, you can see the Stewartville Tigers take on Cannon Falls this Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. And then we get into some top 10 soccer matchup. We have the number 8 Cotter Ramblers taking on the number 6 ranked Stewartville Tigers in this boys contest. And this one was a tough one. The Stewartville Tigers remain undefeated as they go 10-0 on the season with this 2-0 win over the Ramblers. This loss was the first loss of the year for Cotter as Stewartville continues their undefeated run. Now Stewartville will return to action on Monday on the road against Mankato Loyola as Cotter comes back tonight to face Lake City on the road. And getting into some football action, last week's KTCC game day of the week was against Casson Manorville and Stewartville, and this one turned out to be an instant classic. This rivalry game was one for the matchup, or one for the ages, and if you missed it, well, let me give you a sneak peek of what happened. So KM at Stewartville, this one was a battle. Comets came down to take on the defending state champions, and ended up handing them their first loss since 2023. This one went back and forth until the last second. Literally, big plays made on both ends of the ball, or both sides of the ball. Big plays made by Tiger quarterback Vince Wellick, dropping a dime into the end zone, but also Comet's Cameron Tottenham getting his own big touchdown catch on a jump ball. And this one boiled down to, you would not guess, field goals. This one boiled down, all it boiled down to was field goals. Stewartville really missing a kicker as they attempted no field goals in this game. Every touchdown they scored, they went for the 2 and weren't able to complete it, which led them to lose 18-21. A field goal in that last second would have tied the game and put it into overtime, but they just didn't have a foot to put it through the uprights. And that one really cost them their undefeated season to the Comets. And this week, getting into KTTC Game Day's matchup of the week.
Terrible right now after, having such a nice run of wins here. But this
Fairmont Cardinals coming down to Austin to take on the Packers, and that's the KTTC Game Day of the week this Friday at 7 p.m. right here on the KTTC Extra live stream, or you can catch it on the North Star Sports and Entertainment Network. Austin, after dropping their first 2 games to New Ulm and Albert Lee, were able to pull off a win last week against Worthington in a close 1-point victory, 14-13. Now, it is the Packers' homecoming week. This will be Austin's homecoming game for the week, so they'll have a tough time balancing all the fun homecoming activities to prepare for an uphill battle with a powerhouse such as Fairmont. The Cardinals enter this game 2-1 with huge wins over New Ulm and Worthington, putting up 40 points plus in each of those games. Their only loss of the season coming last week to Waseca in a close 21-14 matchup between the clash of these two Section 3 Class 3A Titans. So it's going to be a matchup that the Austin Packers are going to have to prepare for against a tough Fairmont Cardinals team. And that's going to do it for me at the Sideline Report this week. That was your headlines from last week, a couple of scores, and what you can expect this week in some volleyball, soccer, and local college football action. And that's going to be it for the Sideline Report, your weekly digital dose of sports headlines around the southeast Minnesota and northern Iowa area. I hope to see you next week right here at 11 a.m. for the Sideline Report, and this Friday for KTTC Game Day at 7 p.m. I'm your host, Terry Raper.